Farah Morali. Tonight, tens of thousands forced to flee their homes as wildfires rage in parts of BC and the Northwest Territories.
And we watched these houses burn last night, our neighbors.
Both regions have declared a state of emergency as fast-moving flames threaten communities like Kelowna and Yellowknife. And
if we don't celebrate Ukraine here, why are they dying on the front lines?
18 months into Russia's war in Ukraine, we check in with Toronto's Ukrainian community as they mark the country's Independence Day. Plus,
this is actually Canada's most historic queer space.
Honoring the site of Canada's first Pride event, we take you to Hanlan's Point Beach, where a celebration is taking place.
This is CBC Saturday News.
We begin in British Columbia, where 35,000 people across the province are being forced from their homes because of rapidly spreading wildfires. One blaze in West Kelowna grew more than 100-fold in just 24 hours. With hundreds of other fires burning across the province, British Columbia has declared a state of emergency. The CBC's Mira Baines is there and has the latest.
Anxious moments as people try to see if their homes are still safe.
We believe we're okay, so we're just out here watching to see if we can pick up any sights of what's going on.
Already plumes of smoke from houses on fire in West Kelowna Estates.
We watched these houses burn last night, our neighbors.
A water outage in the area is hampering efforts as fire crews try to put out spot fires.
This event is going to leave a long, lasting scar on our community.
Local officials say they don't know when people will be able to go home. West Kelowna's fire chief is also out of his home.
The majority of my staff, including me and my family, are also evacuated. So we're all in this together.
Officials confirmed several homes in West Kelowna and Kelowna were lost, but more work needs to be done to assess the damage. Fire officials say last night winds died down, but the conditions are still extreme.
Look at this. Yes, I see it.
There are grim images from the Shuswap, flames burning buildings and trees candling along roads.
This fire made a run yesterday in under 12 hours of over 20 kilometers. That is a significant fire run for this province.
BC is under a state of emergency. The province's message to tourists is to stay away and avoid non-essential travel.
This order will restrict travel in fire-affected areas when you are traveling for the purposes of staying in temporary accommodation.
People are being asked to cancel travel to the central Okanagan, Shuswap and interior to free up accommodations for evacuees. RCMP are monitoring neighborhoods here. They're also saying they've received reports of loitering behind barricades. Police are asking people to stay off parts of Lake Okanagan if they see emergency crews scooping up water in the area. Mira Baines, CBC News, Kelowna.
To Yellowknife now, where residents continue to evacuate the capital city. A wildfire burning out of control northwest of the city is now not expected to reach the city limits by the weekend, but that doesn't mean they're out of the woods yet. Sarah Levitt has more.
Evacuees out of Yellowknife continue to make their way south, filling evacuation centers along the way, like this one in Valley View. For many, it's been a long, tiring trek with a lot of time to think about all that is going on.
One of the greatest things I fight so hard for is that I never want to see our great-great-grandchildren what we have created here. We want to fix it before the future so that our children have better life and better way of living.
On the way to Yellowknife, reinforcements. Firefighters from South Africa.
We were putting hoses and sprinklers around the houses around the highway here. We started down from that side and we're going towards Yellowknife.
In Yellowknife itself, very few remain, just over 2,500 in a city with a normal population of 22,000. Essential workers, but also those who didn't want to leave. That's against the urging of the mayor.
If there's an emergency, we really want to focus on the emergency at hand and not doing the emergency evacuation. So really encourage folks. I know it's really hard, but please pack your bags, head out.
In Edmonton, evacuees continue to register at the city's expo center. Others just tried to take a break from the stress of the last few days by relaxing. The TELUS World of Science waived ticket fees for all fire evacuees.
Places like this makes it awesome. Makes it so much better.
Instead of being stuck in the hotel or wondering what's going on, kind of get your mind off of stuff and get the kids busy because they're a little bit antsy.
The museum president says they wanted to give back, and she has experience of her own.
I was evacuated in 2016 due to the forest fires in Fort McMurray, and so I know firsthand the difference it makes to families to be able to come to a place like the Science Center.
On the minds of evacuees is their hometown. Officials say it's unlikely the fire will reach the city this weekend, but it still remains a threat. Sarah Levitt, CBC News, Edmonton.
Let's take a look now at wildfires across the country. This is a map from Natural Resources Canada. The red areas show fast-spreading, high-intensity blazes that are very difficult to control. You can see that large sections of southern and central BC, along with southern Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba, are covered in patches of red. And there are also extreme wildfire regions in central Northwest Territories and a region of Nunavut. Here in Ontario, there are still moderate fires in the province's northwestern region, though fire crews say blazes are slowing as temperatures cool down. Sophia Kambalia joins us now for a look at the forecast. Sophia, it's incredible to say just how widespread those fires are, and certainly weather is going to play a factor here.
Yeah, and total area burned across the country, Farah, has been record-breaking compared to past years. Here's a look at one of those fires in the Okanagan as seen from satellite imagery. A devastating fire situation continuing to unfold. You talked about the growth of some of those fires, 100-fold in 24 hours. It went from 64 hectares to 6,800 hectares in 24 hours. Incredibly dry conditions exacerbated by really strong winds and record-breaking heat this past week. Have a look at the current hotspots. Everything you see in red or dark orange happened in the last 6 hours. These are aggressive fires happening as we speak, not only in the Okanagan, but also in the Penticton area and southeastern BC, as you mentioned there, and in Lytton. The smoke and ash is actually being detected from radar. It is so dense and so strong. In fact, everything you see in purple is the greatest density that this graphic can actually pick up. Incredibly dangerous air quality for hundreds of thousands over the next few days. Luckily, though, for the forecast, for many of the fire-stricken regions, winds will be lighter for the next 24 to 36 hours, and temperatures will be seasonal. Smoke from the fires in Northwest Territories, meanwhile, coming to our neck of the woods. Seasonal conditions for us, but you'll notice that haze in the sky, not only for Sunday morning, but Sunday afternoon. Farah.
All right, we'll check back in with you shortly. Thanks, Sophia.
Thank you.
Thousands gathered in Centennial Park today to celebrate Ukrainian Independence Day. And while it was a celebration, it comes nearly a year and a half into Russia's invasion, with refugees continuing to arrive in this country. Clara Pasica spoke to some attendees about what the event means to them this year.
Centennial Park was a sea of blue and yellow today, part of a packed celebration for the country's 32nd Independence Day. Though filled with music, dancing, and joy, the event comes under the dark cloud of war.
And as I saw today, there's a family that was killed in Chernivtsi. So, you know, you have that emotion, and it's very difficult because it happens on a daily basis, right? There's another child that was killed 3 days ago, sleeping in his bed. But at the same time, there's so much hope.
This volunteer is one of many here to raise funds for those fighting for Ukraine.
You feel like you're paying back, like you feel that guilt that you're here and you're not back home. And here, when you see the results in the end of the day and you see the amount of people doing technically the same stuff that you're doing for another brigade or another volunteering organization, you feel very hopeful, and you know that Ukraine's going to win with this support overseas and across the globe.
Many here say they have a personal connection with loved ones fighting in the war.
So me as a man, if I would be in Ukraine, I would literally go to the army. I can't, as I'm not there, but I can help in some other ways. And, you know, raising money and spreading awareness is one of the best ways.
The event aims to connect newcomers with those who've been here for generations. Irina Shuchak arrived just 1 month ago.
I feel like in Ukraine, really, because there are many people, Ukrainian people. I hear Ukrainian language. I can wear nice Ukrainian dress and be like in Ukraine.
Organizers say having room to celebrate being from Ukraine matters.
We need to celebrate Ukraine. If we don't celebrate Ukraine here, why are they dying on the front lines? And the soldiers tell us, you know, some people go, well, you shouldn't have concerts, you shouldn't sing. And the soldiers go, no, the opposite. If you all die and wither all over the world because we're suffering here on the front line, then why are we fighting? You guys got to live. We're here fighting so you guys can live.
Now, when this war will end remains unclear, but attendees here say until that happens, their efforts to support from afar won't cease. Clara Pasica, CBC News, Toronto.
Decades ago, it was the site of Canada's first Pride celebration. Hanlan's Point Beach on the Toronto Islands has long been a safe space for the LGBTQ+ community. Today, activists gathered there for a celebration, but to also draw attention to the risks the area is facing. Tyler Cheese headed out there today to meet with some of them.
There's really history on every grain of sand on this beach.
Hanlan's Point Beach on the western shore of the Toronto Islands has been a space inhabited by the LGBTQ+ community for decades.
This is actually Canada's most historic queer space. Queer people have been coming and taking up space here for nearly a century, through times when it was illegal to be a queer person, when you couldn't be openly trans. So the fact that this space existed and then persisted for as long as it has is really something special.
It's here that Canada's first Pride celebration was held in 1971.
We were young radicals, young utopians when we went to Parliament Hill, and then we came here and we publicized the fact that we were having a gay Pride picnic. That was an act of bravery. It was an act of courage.
Organizers say it's not just about coming out and celebrating a historically queer spot, but actually taking up space as a form of resistance.
There have been some recent issues of homophobia, transphobia, and bigotry and harassment towards the queer community in this most historic space. So what we want to do is make sure that people feel comfortable to come back, take up space here, and claim this space as their own.
But it's not just harassment that's putting the space at risk.
Well, it's eroded physically, right? The beach used to continue much farther. Now they've put in new sand, but the erosion meant that the clothing optional area and kind of the queer area kept getting smaller and smaller.
Last year, the city created a new section of beach just south of the older section. But the advocacy group Friends of Hanlan's wants to make sure the original part of the beach is maintained for the future.
It hasn't been a top priority for really anyone for a long time. So making sure that there actually still is a beach that people can come and visit, especially when it means so much to them, is important.
The mayor was not able to attend today's event, but sent her support in a video message.
Thank you for coming together to make the beach safer and better. Count on me to join with you. You have my commitment to keep Hanlan's queer and full of love and acceptance.
The city officially recognized Hanlan's as a historically significant space for the queer community earlier this year. Tyler Cheese, CBC News, Toronto.
Here's a live look at the Toronto skyline this evening. Whether you like rides, music, or great food, there is plenty to do in the city. But will the weather hold up this weekend? We will take you to some of the many events happening and go back to Sophia for a look at our long-range forecast. When we come back, stay with us. Welcome back. As we continue to monitor extreme fires across the country, residents in Mexico's Baja Peninsula are bracing for extreme weather of their own. Hurricane Hilary is expected to make landfall this weekend. The U.S. National Hurricane Center is predicting catastrophic and life-threatening flooding for the peninsula and for the southwestern United States. The hurricane is expected to hit the Mexican peninsula this evening and move northward as a tropical storm tomorrow. That would make it the first tropical storm to reach Southern California in 84 years. Sophia Kambalia joins us now for a look again at the forecast. Sophia, a lot of eyes tonight on Hurricane Hilary's path.
Yeah, an incredibly rare path as well. There's only really been a handful of storms like this that have targeted the Southern California coast, one of which being before Canadian Confederation. So this is incredibly rare, the first time in modern history that we've had tropical storm warnings for many of these highly populated regions of Southern California. A mix of unusually warm sea surface temperatures in this part of the ocean and blocking high pressure on top of much of continental United States that is actually creating an unusual south to north track for this hurricane. Yes, it's going to weaken as it gets on shore for Sunday into Monday, but it will still bring with it powerful winds and, as you mentioned, catastrophic flooding. These are some regions, Farah, that only see about 50 millimeters of rainfall a year. Some areas locally could get 150 to 250 millimeters just out of this one system alone. The infrastructure is not prepared for this type of rain in the desert conditions. Now, how does Hurricane Hilary impact us in the GTA and in parts of Ontario? That big ridge of high pressure we talked about will bring an unusual amount of stable warmth and heat and a ridge of high pressure to us. I say unusual because it's been a very wet summer. We are entering into a really nice dry, warm, hot stretch. If this was your week off for the summer, you picked a good one. Humidity builds as well for Sunday, feeling like 36 and then a really stable week. Shower chance increases into Thursday, but I caution this by saying it may be one of the last stretches this nice and warm and hot until we get into the cooler fall-like weather around the corner, Farah.
Guess we got to enjoy it while we can, Sophia.
Get out there and have fun.
Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
Well, summer weather returned, as you saw there, for day 2 of the CNE, just in time for the annual Warriors Day Parade.
They do so much for us, and so here's a chance to give them applause for thanks what they're doing.
Marching through Prince's Gate to the sounds of bagpipes and drums, over 2,000 veterans and members of the Canadian Armed Forces. It started way back in 1921 as a way to celebrate the victories of the troops. Today, the parade pays tribute to the sacrifices made by members of the Canadian Armed Forces. Toronto's Caribbean Carnival wrapped a couple weeks ago, but the Caribbean vibes are still on full display this weekend at Afro-Carib Fest.
Very important to bring such, diverse black and, just, again, communities who have, people who are migrated into Canada and looking for a community. And this is the best place that we can gather as a community to celebrate our culture.
It's happening at Thompson Memorial Park in Scarborough. Attendees are treated to the sounds of soca and Afro beats. There are live performances from local artists and dance groups, and of course, some delicious food. Afro-Carib Fest is part of the Toronto Arts Foundation initiative for free cultural events. Adding to some of the traffic you might have seen from various events across the city, a pothole blitz. The city completed its 5th of the year today. City crews began at 6 this morning to repair as many potholes as possible. Drivers and cyclists were asked to be patient as they made repairs on expressways, major roads, and neighborhood streets. The city says so far this year, they have fixed more than 135,000 potholes. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Finally tonight, the official start of the NBA season is still a couple of months away, but some fans got the opportunity to meet a few Raptors legends today.
We've come back here with, the original Raptor crew. We're a family, so you have that along with, being able to interact with the fans. It's always a blast to be back.
That was Tracy Murray, who had 2 stints with the Raptors. Members of the alumni were at In Vintage We Trust, a clothing store in Toronto's Parkdale neighborhood. Fans got the chance to get autographs as well as snap some pictures. And that is our show for you tonight. Thank you so much for watching. Before we go, we want to take you back to the CNE for a look at some of the unusual foods being offered up this year. You can stay caught up on news anytime on our website, cbcnews.ca. Have a great night.